And just look at me, not you.
Okay. My name is Jeff Hahn, and I serve with SIM at the International Office as a Deputy International Director. And I served for 10 years in Latin America and 10 years now at the International Office.
Great. So, as a result of being here at this consultation, what is something or some people, interaction, whatever, that you think is a significant takeaway for you from this particular consultation?
Well, there are two significant areas for me that have been very helpful. One is wrestling through the whole issue of honor and shame, and this focus that dominates in many cultures around the world is present everywhere, but is something that is not as intuitive for some cultures to contemplate and proactively address as others, and certainly that be the case for me. And so, reflecting back on my missionary career and then reflecting forward in terms of orientation of new missionaries and of current missionaries serving with SIM, helping to have some tools and resources to orient people toward honor and shame-based cultures and how to present the gospel, how to disciple, how to do leadership development, theological education within with that framework in mind.
So is there anything in specific in terms of leadership development, shame and honor, that you see as a significant insight that's been highlighted or strengthened for you during this time?
For me, even the gospel presentation has been challenging for me to readdress, to look at how many of these models for the four spiritual laws or whatever, evangelism explosion, and many of the dominant models, how they may need to be looked at again in terms of honor and shame motifs. And that's quite fundamental when you're talking about just the kind of the fundamental gospel message. And if that needs to be reevaluated and looked at again, then how much does that then ripple out in terms of the long-term development process toward maturation as a believer? The other major takeaway for me from this event is on an organizational level, wrestling with how does orality tie into theological education. So SIM has a lot of theological education initiatives around the world, a lot of connections to schools and institutions and theological educators. And then we have this groundswell of people working with storying and orality in different places in the world, and wanting to see those two come together, and seeing through this conference that there are definite overlapping areas, and wanting within our organization to cluster orality with theological education, actually as a group of specialists that will be talking together as a group of peers and cross-pollinating and looking at how they can help one another, not see themselves as distinct and separate spheres from one another and possibly competitive spheres, but rather as overlapping spheres to help in learning, in education, in the various contexts where we serve. So for me, it helped bring together those two spheres for me in a very practical way, and I think for SIM, going forward, this will be very helpful for us to see these as overlapping spheres as opposed to competitive spheres.
So anything specifically you see yourself doing in the next weeks, months, years as a result of what you just said?
I want to see some of the resources that have been provided even at this event, and that will come out of this event in the hands of our trainers. And in terms of organizationally, we're going to actually cluster our specialists in theological education with our specialists in orality. So that's a
big step.
That's a big step. So in doing that, we were already contemplating that and putting together the pieces, but this reinforced that this will be very helpful for us to have those groups of people conversing at the ground, at the local level where the ministries are happening, not just at the theoretical level. So to me, that's a significant takeaway, very practical one for us.